Welcome to Divine Therapy Inc. Before we begin this deep exploration into the power of steady growth, find a place of absolute stillness. This is a journey for your soul, a long and peaceful walk through the landscape of your own potential. Ensure your environment is quiet. Let your phone stay silent. Let the world outside wait. Close your eyes and visualize a soft, green light beginning to glow at the base of your spine, rising slowly up through your heart and into your mind. Today, we are speaking to the part of you that feels overwhelmed by big goals. We are speaking to the part of you that starts with a burst of fire but flickers out when the work becomes quiet and repetitive. We are speaking to the procrastinator, the dreamer, and the one who is tired of waiting for a lucky break. This is the story of two gardeners, Silas and Elaine, and the secret of the garden of consistency. In a land where the soil was as black as midnight and the sun stayed in the sky for 20 hours a day, there were two neighbors who each owned a vast, empty plot of land. The king of the land announced a great harvest. He promised that whoever could grow a single, magnificent golden cedar tree would be granted a seat at the royal table and a life of eternal peace. The golden cedar was a legendary tree. It was said that its roots had to reach the very heart of the earth and its branches had to touch the clouds. Both Silas and Elaine were ambitious. Both wanted the prize. Both believed they had what it took to be the greatest gardener in the kingdom. Silas was a man of great intensity. He was a believer in the power of the giant leap. On the first day of the season, Silas arrived at his field with 100 workers and 20 teams of oxen. He worked for 20 hours without stopping. He dug massive trenches, he hauled tons of expensive fertilizer, and he planted 100 seeds of the golden cedar all at once. He shouted to the heavens, "I will have the greatest forest the world has ever seen." He stayed awake for 3 days and 3 nights, watering his field until it was a swamp. He was a whirlwind of energy. By the end of the week, Silas was exhausted. His hands were blistered, his back was thrown out, and his oxen were spent. He looked at his field, and because he saw no sprouts after 7 days of Herculean effort, he became bitter. He went inside his house, closed the shutters, and slept for 2 weeks. He told himself he was waiting for the right mood to strike him again. He was waiting for another burst of inspiration. Elaine, on the other hand, was a man of the quiet step. On the first day, he arrived at his field alone. He didn't bring 100 workers. He brought a single bucket of water and a small hand trowel. He walked to the very center of his plot and planted just one seed. He spent only 1 hour in the garden. He dug a small, perfect hole, placed the seed inside, and watered it gently. He whispered a prayer of gratitude to the earth and then he went home. He spent the rest of his day reading, spending time with his family, and resting. The next day, Silas was still asleep, his tools rusting in the rain. But Elaine returned. He did not do more than he did the day before. He did exactly the same. He pulled 3 small weeds that had sprouted near his seed. He poured 1 bucket of water. He stayed for 1 hour. This became Elaine's sacred rhythm. On days when he felt inspired, he did his 1 hour. On days when it rained and he felt tired, he still did his 1 hour. On days when he doubted if the seed would ever grow, he still walked to the center of the field and pulled 3 weeds. Elaine understood a truth that Silas had forgotten. The earth does not respond to an explosion of effort, the earth responds to the weight of a footstep that returns every single day. Weeks turned into months. Silas would occasionally have a burst of guilt. He would see Elaine in the field and suddenly rush out, working for 18 hours until he collapsed, trying to make up for the 2 weeks he had missed. He would yell at his soil, "Why aren't you growing? I gave you everything." But because his effort was inconsistent, the soil had become packed and hard during his long absences. The seeds he had planted in his first week had rotted in the swamp he created, or they had withered in the draughts of his laziness. Silas was a prisoner of the all-or-nothing trap. Because he couldn't do it perfectly and grandly every day, he often did nothing at all. Meanwhile, Elaine's field began to transform. A tiny, silver-green shoot had emerged from the ground. It wasn't a forest yet, but it was alive. Because Elaine returned every day, he noticed the tiny pests before they could eat the leaves. Because he watered consistently, the roots grew deep and steady, seeking the heart of the earth at a natural pace. Elaine's garden was not a place of stress, it was a place of meditation. His 1 hour in the garden became the most peaceful part of his life. He wasn't working against time, he was working with it. 1 year later, the king arrived to judge the harvest. Silas's field was a graveyard of unfinished projects. There were deep, half-dug trenches filled with stagnant water. There were expensive tools abandoned in the mud. There were a few spindly, weak trees that had grown during his bursts of energy but had died during his periods of procrastination. Silas stood at the edge of his field, blaming the weather, blaming the soil, and blaming the king for setting such a difficult task. He felt like a victim of life, never realizing he was a victim of his own lack of rhythm. Then the king walked to Elaine's field. In the center stood a single, magnificent golden cedar. It was breathtaking. Its trunk was as wide as a house and its leaves shimmered like liquid sunlight. It was strong, healthy, and vibrant. The king asked Elaine, "How did you grow such a giant with such a small shovel?" Elaine replied, "My lord, I didn't grow this tree in a day. I grew it in 1,000 hours, but I only ever lived 1 hour at a time. I didn't try to build a forest, I only tried to be a friend to one seed. I learned that the water from a single cup given every day is more powerful than a flood given once a year." The king crowned Elaine, but the real prize was the peace Elaine had found. He had defeated the tomorrow monster. He had learned that procrastination is simply the fear of a big task, and the cure for fear is a tiny, repeatable action. He had learned that success is not a destination you reach by sprinting, it is a garden you inhabit by walking. If you are listening to this today, and you are staring at a massive goal that feels impossible, I want you to look at your hands. You are likely trying to be Silas. You are waiting for the perfect moment of inspiration to work for 20 hours and change your life. You are waiting for the big bang of productivity. But the divine is whispering to you, just bring the bucket. What is the 1 hour task you can do today? What is the one seed you can water? Procrastination lives in the future, in the someday, and the eventually. Consistency lives in the now. It doesn't ask for your greatness, it only asks for your presence. It doesn't matter if you are tired. It doesn't matter if you are afraid. All that matters is that you show up to your garden. Take a deep, slow breath. Imagine yourself standing in Elaine's field. Feel the cool handles of the hand trowel in your grip. See the vast, empty space around you. Do not be intimidated by the emptiness. The emptiness is just a place for your future shade to grow. Imagine yourself pouring 1 bucket of water. Feel the satisfaction of that one small act. You have done enough for today. At Divine Therapy Inc., we want to release you from the burden of being a once-a-month hero. We want you to become a daily gardener. Whether you are studying for an exam, building a business, healing from a trauma, or trying to find your focus, the secret is the same. Do not plant 100 seeds. Plant one. Water it. Return tomorrow. Notice how the weight in your chest lightens when you realize you don't have to finish the whole garden today. You only have to pull 3 weeds. You only have to take 1 step. The golden cedar is already inside the seed. It knows how to grow. Your only job is to provide the consistency that allows the miracle to happen. Stay in this feeling of gentle progress for a few more minutes. Visualize your life a year from now, after 365 hours of quiet, steady work. See the height of your tree. Feel the strength of your roots. You are not lazy, you have just been trying to move mountains with your bare hands. From now on, you will move the mountain 1 stone at a time, and you will find that the mountain eventually moves itself. Thank you for walking through the garden with us today. You have everything you need to succeed. You have the bucket, you have the seed, and you have the breath. Until next time, stay in the rhythm and remain in the light.